All right. Hello, everyone. This is my final SIA project over a proposed modular housing factory in the neighborhood of North Linden here in Columbus. So I wanted to start and just give a little project background and summary. So the proposed project is like I mentioned, it's a modular housing factory. Um, that is a redevelopment goal of the North Linden neighborhood. Essentially, they're taking a large vacant space. It used to be the old Value City headquarters in the North Linden neighborhood. I'll show some pictures in a minute here. They're going to take that space, use the existing infrastructure, and redevelop it into a modular housing factory. So I don't know if you guys have seen the kind of smaller housing units, like basically they're arranged in like little cubes and then like stacked together, kind of like yeah, like a smaller stackable housing. These are going to be produced in this factory at an affordable price and shipped off to wherever, um, so they can build fast, easy, and cheap affordable housing units in the neighborhood and around Columbus and the United States. Yeah, so this land was purchased by Connect Realty, which is a developer. They purchased it in 2020. Originally, they were just going to do affordable housing units, but thought a factory to produce the units would be more efficient. They purchased it for around $4.5 million in 2020, and have since received a lot of funding from the Franklin County Finance Authority, the Ohio State Tax Credit Authority overall. It just got approved at a state level for I think 99 million extra dollars for development. So it's a big project projected to provide a lot of local jobs through construction and workers at the factory. Around 250 are projected in terms of factory workers and a lot more from construction. Along with just the factory itself, the final redeveloped space will provide office space and affordable housing complexes in itself within the other structures within the lot. And I'll show you a picture in a minute. It's a really big space. So here it is on a map. We'll start with so it's in the North Linden neighborhood off of this main Westerville Road on this big plot of land here. It used, like I said, it was the old Value City site. You may have heard of it before, but yeah, in context, down here to the southwest is campus area, and here is Interstate 71 as well. So here is a satellite view of it. Obviously, it's a very massive space, a huge parking lot, and a huge just vacant building here. So the plan is to take this space, create it to a factory, and then the parking lot space convert it to offices, affordable housing, and more. Details are kind of sparse at the moment, but that's the initial goal. So I wanted to talk about the existing conditions of the North London neighborhood overall. Historically, it's been disinvested in. I included this redlining map just to kind of show how um, these historical disadvantages have manifested to current modern day trends. So the neighborhood here is here within the redlining map. If you're not familiar with redlining, essentially banks drew a red line around neighborhoods um, who appeared to have the most financial risk in giving loans for housing or business ventures, etc. And North London was kind of one of the main neighborhoods in Columbus that experienced this historically. Um, so from that historical perspective, they've had trouble recouping economic gains overall. The construction of Interstate 71 cut right through their neighborhood, and they have a manufacturing background. For example, the American Smelting Company and Federal Chemical Association had factories there, which have caused a number of environmental justice concerns, which I touched on in my paper here. A couple cumulative effects from this pollution overall. Um, in terms of economic factors, education services, social and healthcare services, and manufacturing employ the most people in the community. However, there's a high poverty rate of 43% and a 13% unemployment rate because there's only about 1,300 jobs available in the neighborhood. So a lot of this investment and economic opportunities getting pushed outside of the neighborhood. So people are forced to leave to find work, and a lot that oftentimes that results in not a lot of people are staying, which results in the loss of tax credits, etc. So for my comparative diachronic model, I wanted to exemplify the community of Franklinton, specifically their gravity project. They have similar demographics overall, similar populations. North Linden's about 18,000. Franklinton's almost only about 10,000. Um, but they have similar education attainment. Linden's at about 26%, Franklinton's 34%. Education attainment is those with high school degree or more. Um, and then there's a high level of renters compared to homeowners in each. Uh, Almost 80% of about 80% of people in Hilltop rent compared to own their homes, and about 55% in Linden as well. Essentially, I think these two were a good comparative community, especially because Franklinton had their gravity project. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this. It supported affordable housing and economic development. It's a huge redevelopment project um, that is kind of similar to the proposed modular housing factory, but it's brought in a lot of local jobs. They have a couple office spaces within the apartment units as well. So companies like the Roosevelt and Pelotonia have office spaces there, and it's kind of molded this new sense of place and cultural capital within the community, and has agglomerated other. Well, it's highly focused on like artistic elements in Columbus, highlighting local artists, and it's kind of agglomerated this new industry within Franklinton. You can see through 400 West Rich Street, which is a prominent cultural arts center in the event space there as well. So, kind of want to draw upon this to show how a ambitious development project such as the modular housing factory can yield a lot of cultural, social, and economic benefits to a community. Um, yeah, moving on to kind of the more SIA process itself, I wanted to craft my public involvement. The kind of model I crafted is there would be these in-person public involvement meetings and online engagement materials to gauge the community's perspective on and hear whether they thought the redevelopment project would be most beneficial for them, or if they wanted to see something else for that space. And kind of utilize this ongoing data gathering tool that Burge mentions in their work. This will be conducted by various community leaders and consultant groups if needed. And like I said, the overarching goal of the public involvement stage would be to ensure that this project is the best option for the community's well-being and will yield a positive effect on the community overall. So there, like I said, there would be in-person meetings and online engagement activities, which would take form in either surveys or activities to kind of get the community brainstorming overall. Okay, for potential impacts, I used Burge's 5 SIA variable categories, which are population impacts, community institutional arrangements, communities in transition, individual and family level impacts, and community infrastructure needs. Um, yeah, I'll kind of explain more of these upcoming. So, if you want more context, take a look at Burge's chapter on these 5. I won't go into them right now, but here are my suspected impacts for each 5 categories. Population impacts, I touched on how immigration of people into the neighborhood because of construction jobs and factory jobs could lead to a higher population. I put this as a positive impact. Um, that will kind of grow the tax base of the community and allow for future investments overall. Along with this, community and institutional arrangements with this, there may be an enhanced, North Linden may want to update their zoning codes or implement a new higher level of planning and local governance to control growth and success of the project, which could also have positive impacts as well. Um, Communities in transition, there could be a shift in power dynamics. It could lead to conflict from different interests and decision-making processes. Construction for individual and family level impacts. Construction could create adverse impacts like obviously air pollution, noise pollution, traffic congestion, water pollution for residents. Um, and community infrastructure needs, it could raise the cost of replacement from enhanced use of these, like roads or utilities from the construction process because it will be pretty large. So these were some of my suspected impacts for each category. Um, I chose the three negatives here in terms of mitigation methods. So starting with communities in transition, I thought it would be important to hold the developer Connect Realty accountable um, to amplify their level of trust within community. Potentially, I proposed they could invest in other projects in the community or support a local community organization um, that supports a local power structure overall, and keep a fair rate of taxation so it gives profit but is not too much power to the corporation overall to kind of maintain that power dynamic within the community. For individual and family level impacts, I proposed to just construct new access roads for the construction phase, as there's going to be a lot of transportation of raw materials, etc. A lot of trucks going in and out of the community. So construct these new access roads, hold the construction development company responsible for these impacts, and and yeah, go from there. For community infrastructure needs, kind of on topic of this, Ohio Department of Transportation will do an assessment of the roads, and along with this, the city of Columbus will plan for new housing projects and subsidize them with state and local funding. As um, like I mentioned, the development project will bring immigration of not only workers but new families into the neighborhood as wages may increase and a creation of new social class may arise as well. Like I said, a lot of people in North London rent, so maybe some of them will be looking to purchase a house now. So making sure they have enough housing stock to keep up with local competition and keep some of these residents in, so property taxes can be collected will be a big one. As far as a monitoring process, it's important to involve a diverse stakeholder team that has roots within the community to do so. But I wanted to note a split between construction and implementation phase. So construction will extend during construction and 1 year post-construction, and that will be primarily led by residents and neighborhood associations. So for example, if during the construction phase, noise pollution, air pollution are getting out of hand, residents and associations can notify a higher entity like the City of Columbus and to monitor these impacts altogether. Um, I was thinking questionnaires and surveys could be distributed to community members and other interested stakeholders to kind of gauge the level of changes in terms of like wage levels, government trust, and other factors, and local or power dynamics as well um, in that time period as well. The implementation phase will be after the factories, in use, and will measure any serious impacts to the power dynamics, economy, social structures, and that'll be kind of more monitored by the City of Columbus altogether, the development agency, and neighborhood associations as well. I wanted to define serious impacts as any effects that directly hurt community members' well-being and quality of life, or will hurt them in the long term. This could include pollution emissions, loss of jobs, significant loss of status, decision-making ability, unequal distribution of opportunity, and more. And I wanted to ensure that the development company, Connect Realty, and associated construction companies will be held responsible for this compensation, whether that be financially or socially. So to conclude, the process follows a lot of the SIA principles through the established public involvement process that I mentioned for principle one. Uh, the key elements of human environment are included within the analysis when I mentioned the impacts to infrastructure, day-to-day quality of life for principle two, um, ensuring that quality information for decision makers are upheld through the existing conditions and more reflect principles three and four. Um, and principle five, I mentioned the instances of environmental justice, making sure that new developments don't exacerbate those, as the manufacturing background of the community has kind of damaged them there. Um, Finally, we talked about the solidified mitigation and monitoring processes that have been created, which I think encapsulates principle six well. And in conclusion, I think the modular housing factory can contribute to many instances of economic gain and overall well-being of the community if done correctly, obviously. But we just need to ensure that each step of the process is monitored and ensuring that, social, environmental, and economic needs are upheld and being maintained. Um, yeah, I think that it can bring in a lot of new tax revenue, a lot of new jobs to the neighborhood, similar to what Gravity has done, and kind of mold a new sense of place for it. So it'll be interesting to see how it proceeds in the future. But yeah, that's all I have on that. Thanks for listening.